Without further ado, I will call upon a gentleman who needs no introduction. The people of Hyderabad love and respect him. He was an IPS officer and former Commissioner of Police, Hyderabad City. He then served as the Director General of ACB. Currently, he is the advisor to the Government of Telangana on Minorities Affairs. Let us all welcome Janab Abdul Khayyum Khan Sahab on the dais. I request Mr. Abdul Rahman Salman to present a bouquet to the chief guest of our literary event. Yes, please. Mr. Abdul Rahman Salman.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Saif. He's also a gentleman, but still Saif. I remember when Rajiv Gandhi visited Police Academy, I was undergoing an in-service training program there. He really put us in great humor by addressing us as ladies, gentlemen, and policemen. Anyway, Assalamu alaikum or namaskar. Saif met me a few days back in my office with a request that I should launch his book, the second book. Immediately I asked, what are the other works you have done? I want to see that. He handed the first book that he had written. And then I had a brief conversation. On that day, now as I entered this hall, the way he was explaining, his last words now started ringing in my mind. One should read a lot to write anything. There was a very famous English writer who had said, how do you produce so much of such a great body of work, so many books you have written? He said, for every sentence that I have written, possibly I have read 100 books. That is the amount of knowledge you require, the experience you require to write anything. I started seeing in Saif my second son. This boy also, right from his childhood, from the age of possibly 6, 7, he started writing poetry, beautiful poetry. And then would start writing a lot of abstract and then historical type of, fictional type of works, mostly based on Greek, Roman mythology, picking up characters, changing the name, changing the circumstances. He started writing. This boy got in IAS last year. When he picked up writing essays for his civil services examination, there also he would always pick up abstract topics and start writing. Very abstract topics. I saw his marks ultimately when he got it. He got 173 out of 200, which is the highest in the country within the last year, the civil services exam for the essay paper. That's why I can urge and certify to what Saif said. Right from childhood, if you are in the habit of reading, and also start writing. And when you find a fertile ground, when your teachers, elders in the family start encouraging you to do that, you get to be very imaginative, very mature. I read his first book. I won't say that I read the whole of it. Out of 298 pages, 60 to 70 I read. And now when I started traveling, thanks to the traffic, because it's a school living hours, so I was moving at a very slow pace. I could read another 25 pages now. I can very safely conclude and say second book is still under wraps. We have not opened it. Whatever I speak is on the strength and the basis of what I have read in book number 1. It's a beautifully written book, highly imaginative. He had created an entirely new fictional world. The kingdoms, the names, the circumstances, etc. What touched me most was he carries the theme forward, the story forward, not through narration, but through the dialogue. Dialogue also is very simple and straight, as you have in our day-to-day conversations. 1-line, 2-line conversations, not lengthy ones. Many of the novelists, they fall into this trap. when they want to bring out the characteristics of any personality, a name or a character that they have etched in the book, they try to go out for a lot of soliloquies and huge dialogue. But he has not done that. He has moved the story forward to very simple language. It's very difficult to say whether it is a book rooted in modern world, ancient and medieval. It really transcends all the three worlds, because a lot of conversation is contemporary, but the circumstances, the kingdoms, empires, emperors invading the neighboring kingdoms, all these situations perhaps are medieval and ancient. So that is the beauty of it. And I can very safely tell, he had told me last time when I met him that he spent most part of his life in Riyadh. He studied in the schools there and spent a lot of his life there in Riyadh. But then the descriptions that he has given, the landscape and the climate, the snow-clad mountains, and then blizzards and all that, it requires very mature imagination, very fertile imagination to start thinking about all that. I really fell in love with this book. It's a really beautiful book, remaining 230 to 40 pages that I have to read. I'll read it. I'm a very, very unstable type of reader, in the sense when I pick up a book, first thing I start doing is I don't read cover to cover. I read first few pages, then go into the middle, then suddenly jump to the last page and read what is the conclusion of this. Then start reading the book subsequently. I did the same with this book also. So, and then Saif, I'm also a writer. I have written 4 books. But then one thing, let me tell you, I don't have the patience to write a novel. Right, start to finish, I can't do. When I write only 1 page, 2 page anecdotes, stories, something which would readers might like it, but then they don't have to read it continuously. And that again shows the unstable nature of my character. In writing also, I can't spend too much of time. A really impatient reader and writer. So, but contrary to that, you have done this. I won't say in every way it is perfect. Let me also tell you, because you should not fall into that trap. You have started up, you have done exceedingly well for your age. Maybe you are in your late 20s or early 30s. Not me. 27. When you are 27, then at that age, this book is really remarkable. As you keep going along, as you read more and more, as you keep traveling and start meeting people, start looking at circumstances, that is the time you gain in experience, gain in knowledge. And I'm sure that as you go along, you are bound to show much more maturity in your writing, and perhaps a lot of variety in the themes that you pick up also. I wish that you do that and continue to write. Don't stop. Continue to write, and then introduce it to Indian audience also in a big way, because most of the cataloging and then whatever you have done is from the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So start doing it in Hyderabad, and this habit of reading, writing, storytelling, story relating, etc., which almost has become a dying art now, thanks to social media, thanks to the revolution that has come in internet. But for me, unless you settle down somewhere and read a book, you don't get that enjoyment of reading. I get really irritated when my sons or daughter, they tell me that when I want a book, they forget, they don't get. When they don't get, when I tell them, our habit is to walk into a bookshop, scurry through the books and then pick up whatever we like. When we tell these children, they don't get it that way. The other day I was really upset. I started telling him. He quietly came, opened the Kindle and iPad and then started showing them, look, is this here, and started reading it. I said, this way I can't read. Our generation cannot read that way. We have to hold the book physically in hand, turn page by page, because we don't only read the lines. We start thinking about what exists in between the lines, in the vacant spaces that exist. So for us, this is the way. This is the way, and then you are a beautiful book. And not only me, my daughter-in-law also read it. In fact, she went away to Delhi. I rang up this morning and told her, what is your opinion on the book? She gave some opinions, but I think I said you convey it to him directly in written form. She will do. She's a student of English literature, incidentally, so probably she should be able to tell. Who knows, someday she might be working in Saudi Arabia. So she joined Indian Foreign Service last year, so she will be there. So, all in all, I congratulate you for coming up with a wonderful work, one, and I'm sure that this will also be equally promising and good. And on behalf of all of us here, most of us are elders to you. We can bless you, so we can offer our dua, and then beseech Almighty Allah that He should give you a very fertile mind and a very focused and a concentrated mind. That is very much required to produce a good book. We will continue to write and we will continue to read. With that, congratulating you on your work and expressing my thanks for inviting me to launch your work. I'm sorry you got delayed a bit because one is the day when you came and invited me, I forgot to ask about the time at which the function would be. Hyderabadis are used to having functions beyond 6 o'clock in the evening, which is a working day. If it is Sunday, of course, on a holiday we can have it at 10:30, 11 in the morning or even 4 o'clock. But then having committed, I thought I should come. We have to juggle 2-3 works, that's why I was telling you that. And then once starting again, the traffic also held us back. Sorry for the delay. And then once again, on behalf of all of us, I congratulate you. May God bless you with all the duties of. Thank you.